welcome to the Israel update, which, with all that's going on over there, I know we may have a little bit of a longer update today than normal. You guys just kind of got your hands in everything, like, bombing Syria, killing generals, mistakes that you make on a constant basis regarding the United Nations, who are totally innocent of everything that happens in Israel. So just
Always, the
take
whole
it from
time.
there.
Okay. So first of all, the y- the best way to understand everything that's going on is that the world has one set of rules for everything else,
Yeah.
everywhere else in the world, and a totally, absolutely different set for Israel, even in the same situation. Hanoch, give me an example. Well, there's ongoing wars in the Congo, Sudan, Yemen, Ukraine.
Hmm.
More than 2 years. Who is out there in the streets demanding ceasefire now? Who is out there calling upon the Russians to stop committing horrific attacks on the Ukrainian civilian population? We
Let
know
me
what's going
see.
on.
Is this a multiple choice answer? Um,
We
can,
don't
can I,
need we don't need multiple guesses.
oh, okay. So it's
Unbelievable.
it's it's not even a question actually because it's irrelevant. It's not happening. Yeah.
Okay. So Israel made a mistake.
Yeah.
We misidentified and bombed and killed, I believe it was 7 aid workers. Okay. Now, our listeners may not remember this far back into 2021, but America, via a drone strike, killed an aid worker in Kabul.
Yeah.
Now, not only that, America, with their high tech dropping, parachuting of food aid, have already killed 12 Gazans. But that's not a tragedy, and that's not, unforgivable. When we do anything, it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really shocking.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last several days, remember, I always it's kind of like the usual Hanoch whine, like nobody writes, nobody calls. Well, since the last update, I've been inundated with emails and messages.
Wow.
¿Por qué? As we say in Aramaic. Why? Because all of these people, friends and contacts and acquaintances, heard the red heifer is going to be burnt on the Mount of Olives
Oh
any
yeah.
day now.
Yeah.
Someone actually asked, would I mind? They know I don't live in Jerusalem, but would I mind going in and taking pictures for them? Okay. So my minute on the Mount, which was not able to be on the Mount because Jews
Yeah.
aren't allowed on the Mount right now, addressed that issue from the get-go, that there are 5 red heifer candidates. That's
Hmm.
true. It is true, 80 days ago, at day 100 in the war, Hamas gave this laundry list of reasons they attacked Israel.
Yeah.
And in it, they said, because we had these red cows, as they call them. Now, for people who've written to me and said, so because you have the red heifer, or what appears to be potentially a red heifer, or more than one, that's why Hamas. No, no, no. Understand something. Hamas has been planning this for years.
Yeah.
All of the equipment, all of the missiles, all of the attack, everything was planned. It took years and it took tons of cash. It's not because of the para aduma, the red heifer. Number one. Number two, constantly on the internet, I'm seeing now, I have heard, I have been told that they have rebuilt the Mishkan, the tabernacle in Shiloh.
Yeah, that happened a number of years ago behind the Ashel Hashemron Hotel.
No, they don't mean the little model. They mean the whole nine
Oh,
yards.
Oh, not the one that Menachem and Tuvia did. Okay, yeah,
Oh, no, I don't know. Okay. The
okay.
one that I like the most is the reference to the fact that in Israel, there is a life-size, full-size model of the Second Temple. Now, understand, we're talking about the size of the Temple Mount. So the Kohanim, the priestly class, can practice the avodah, the temple service, and offerings. Now, you're probably wondering, and people who are listening who've been on our Connect tour have said, well, gee, Hanoch, why didn't you ever take us there? Because it doesn't exist, boys and girls. You know, it's unless it's something in mini Israel, and it's about this big.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking the mini Israel one, they could have many priests.
I just, so things are going crazy.
Yeah.
Israel the other day launched a strike on Syria,
Yeah.
to kill one of the main terrorist generals of Iran. So people are saying, like, you know, so what? Understand something. Iran has launched a multi-front war via proxies against Israel. So the
Hmm.
issue, pardon me, excuse me. Oh, thank you. There's nothing like trying to record in the middle of allergy season.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
the way,
In Hebrew, bless you.
thank you. It hit 86 degrees the other day here in Modi'in.
God.
It's now it's going to drop back into the 70s. But anyway, so the issue, and for some bizarre reason, I caught an article on CNN yesterday and I read it through
Mm.
because I was wondering to myself, what is it that my pals in America are reading? Not all of them, but some. And it mentions Israel striking Hezbollah, never mentions that on October 8th, Hezbollah started firing missiles at us and
Hmm.
has been doing it on a daily basis.
Hmm.
No mention of that.
No.
And this, like, you know, Iran is going to retaliate. Iran has been fighting us via Hamas, Hezbollah. I mean, the other day, did you read there are violent demonstrations where? In Jordan, staged by Hamas. Well, somebody's footing the bill for that one, boys and girls. It's Iran.
Yeah.
So all of this is going on. Now, over the last few weeks, I've mentioned a few things that I thought would be upcoming issues. One, the issue of drafting Haredim,
Hmm.
ultra-Orthodox men,
Yeah.
into the army. I mentioned the issue of our dependence upon weapons and weapon systems from the Americans, and number two supplier to Israel is Germany.
Hmm.
And those two issues, oh, and that there would be a lot of political infighting. All of this has happened, not because I'm prophetic, but simply because I've got my fingers to the pulse here. The ultra Orthodox are freaking out. Now, they're not going to be, what was that term used? Press ganged? You know, when they would board a ship in the War of 1812 and, capture people and just
Mm.
make them, whatever it is. That's not going to happen. This is going to be a fight, and it could lead to the downfall of the current government. That's absolutely a real possibility. When these guys hold up signs, usually in English, by the way, they are
Isn't
media
that
savvy.
funny that they do that in English?
That's for the media. That's for the media.
Yeah.
And this idea that
No.
they would rather go to jail than go to the army. But the one that I like the best is they would rather be killed than go into the army. They are describing the IDF as if Jews were still in Tsarist Russia, where Jewish boys were kidnapped and put into the Tsar's army for 25 years.
Hmm.
So this insanity. Now, I'm not saying these guys should die, but we still have these minefields up in the Golan Heights.
Yeah.
They're all barricaded off. They can go clear them. We'll give them a stick that they could poke around. And whatever happens, you don't have to be in the army. But this excuse me, not idea, that our society needs to carry okay. So people said, well, how many people are you talking about? And this is when I love that I could dig up a statistic that isn't commonly known. How many Haredi men are there between the age of 18 and 24 that would be drafted? 66,000.
Wow.
If you take the age of prime being called to the reserves, that number expands to 150,000 men. This, for a country our size,
Hmm.
that is too huge a population to simply ignore and, just say, well, it is what it is. So the Attorney General issued a ruling that the government funds that went to the yeshivot where these guys allegedly study, but in that 18 to 24 group, that funding is being pulled.
Wow.
So we're in for very interesting times here in Israel. There's no doubt about it.
But the funding being pulled will mean that there's going to be probably a decrease in tobacco sales.
It is kind of amazing for such a structured, conservative society how many of the guys smoke cigarettes.
Yeah,
I mean,
Haredi. I remember going to Israel the first time and looking over and seeing this Haredi guy, with the big hat and the coat and everything, and his reading something and smoking a cigarette. It's like, what? And then you get on the plane and they've got cartons of them, and it's just something just doesn't quite add up there, Hanok.
well, strangely enough, within the Haredi community, it is almost totally unknown for women to smoke. Not even frowned upon. It's just simply not done.
Wow. Yeah, I
Very
guess I've
strange.
never seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what else is going on in Israel? The amount of demonstrations against the government, and the demonstrations are turning violent. Violent demonstrations in Israel, demonstrations in general in the middle of a war, are very, very strange. And
Yeah.
even though I'm not a conspiracy theorist, it leads me to believe that there's foreign money and foreign influence orchestrating this. Now, again, and I repeat to those who may be listening to our update for the very first time, I have never been a supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu. However, the comment that you see in the press recently that there is no hostage deal because he's blocking it is totally wrong.
Yeah.
It's totally fair. Israel continues to make offers, including we've made offers to give up live terrorists with Jewish blood on their hands for the bodies of 2 soldiers from 2014 that Hamas is still holding. It's unbelievable, the daily starvation, rape, and torture. Again, I think it was on our last broadcast, I shared something that I had heard from a former government spokesman here in Israel, Elon Levy, that it is believed that only 99 out of the 134 hostages are alive.
Yeah.
I read something the other day in another press account that said that Israeli authorities are surprised if more than 60 to 70 are still alive. We have no way of.
Yeah. I mean, I personally, I kind of feel that may still be a little generous in the numbers. I would be surprised if
Very
there's that
scary.
many. I mean,
Very scared.
you consider Honokin, here we are for us, 180 is just a number. All right. 6 months, just a time period. But for these people, some of them, if they're alive today, have not seen the sun in 6 months. Any transportation that has happened has been in tunnels or in the back of an ambulance or something like that. The women have lost track of I'll say this gently, the number of times they were abused. They in the first days people could remember the torture. Now the torture from 6 months ago is just a blur in their lives of what has happened to them all this time.
It's the other issue.
And the media wants to cry about a few United Nations workers that, I just, sorry, my opinion regarding the United Nations, the unwanted nobodies. They are complicit in this war, totally and
Absolutely.
completely complicit. And so for them to be whining about some of their workers, yeah, okay, it was lives, I got that. But for them to be whining at all about anything, because the blood is not just on the Palestinian hands, it's on the United Nations hands. It's on the hands of George W. Bush for pressuring Ariel Sharon. It is on the hands of the current administration in America for the weapons that were left in Afghanistan, which have now been smuggled and sold and are part of this war. So,
Yeah.
whatever, it's war. Guess what? People die. So-called innocent people, and in fact, innocent people die, which is about 1,200 Israelis.
Yeah. Read some interesting articles recently. From a statistical point of view, the number of casualties that the Gaza Health Ministry, which means Hamas, it's a Hamas organ, has been claiming are statistically impossible. I pointed out on an earlier broadcast a number of weeks ago that, and I was giving the example of the bombing of the World Trade Center on 9/11, that there's no way instantaneously to know how many people were killed when a building comes down. But instantly, they say whatever it is, 547, 38 kids, whatever it is, and those numbers will never go back. And what's astounding is the claim that Israel is committing genocide.
Oh, yeah.
We could, from air power alone, wiped out 250,000 Gazans in 48 hours. This war could have been over on the October the 10th.
Yeah, you could have done the same thing that was done in Hiroshima. I mean, in a different level, but that ended the war. The Pope, speaking of irrelevant people, the Pope made probably, and you've got to go a long ways in what I'm about to say. He made one of the stupidest statements I've ever heard him make, which is, I mean, that's on our big list of stupid statements. But he said in his so-called Easter prayer, which creeps me out, when he's kissing the knee of a statue is just weird to begin with. Everything about this guy, just like whatever heebie-jeebies are, I get him when I see him. He said that no war has ever, or peace has never been brought forth by weapons. What this means is this clown has basically never read a book on history, because every war has been brought forth. Every declaration of peace has been brought forth because of weaponry. For he who is strongest declares peace. Period.
I find it astounding. And then I was, the volumes that I read and then try to assimilate into because you're getting like little glimpses of possible truths.
Mm-hmm.
One of the places in Israel that you and I have brought groups to a number of times is the Ayalon Institute,
Oh yeah.
where Free State of Israel, under the very presence of the British military, they were down below creating bullets.
Yeah.
Amazing place.
3 million 9mm bullets.
Some guy made a comparison that while we did this under the eyes of the British, while Israel, with all of our surveillance and high-tech stuff, the Gazans were able to bring in via Egypt, and that border is still open,
Yeah.
Egypt, tunnels from Egypt, very, very sophisticated missiles, RPGs in enormous quantities.
Yeah.
Our tanks are having tremendous difficulty fighting off all the multiple attacks coming from all around us. And these are guys that are wearing civilian clothes and then go walking down like they're walking to the beach. And no one puts any of this together. Another example, Al Jazeera had an article complaining that 100,000 Indians are being brought into Israel to replace, quote unquote, Palestinian workers from Gaza and what they call the West Bank, Judea, Samaria. Okay. Why doesn't someone stop for a second and say, wait a second, but you've been claiming all along that Gaza was just a big open air prison, but now you're saying they actually worked in Israel? And that's the thing. No one is going A plus B equals C.
No.
They're going to A and like it's a whole new universe, and they can't figure it out.
Because see, Hunter, I mean, you know this, that this equation of A plus B plus C is hijacked because in the process of the whole equation, you have the J, which is this is about Jews. So if it's about Jews or about Israel, A plus B can never equal C because the J and the I get in the middle of it and mess it all up.
The
You
yeah,
know,
the thing that's shocking is I go onto Instagram, and it's on Instagram that I find out all that's happening around the world.
Hmm.
So I find out where there were demonstrations and where synagogues in America are attacked and where Jewish communities are infiltrated, like in Teaneck, New Jersey. But a professor at Harvard Law School complained to the police because a 19-year-old woman student was wearing these dog tags, and he felt threatened by it.
Hmm.
And the police actually came and spoke to her. Now, I don't know if they didn't tell her to take it off or anything, but it's the world. The world in Israel may be crazy. The world in America is
Yeah.
crazy nuts cuckoo.
Oh yeah. You know, and let me bring in something else. The people are forgotten about in Israel right now are the moms and dads. I spent time this week on WhatsApp with two mutual friends of ours. One of them up in the in Samaria. You know who I'm probably talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm on the phone, and they said, "Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I got to put you on hold," because their daughter had called twice. He got back on the phone. He says, "You know, it was nothing, but in this day, when you get two phone calls, you answer the phone." Another mutual friend of ours, her son. This one got me because you and I both know a lot of the players behind all of this, but they actually cut his IDF training short because of a shortage of soldiers in Gaza. And so instead of going
Yeah.
through a complete battery of training, he is now somewhere in Gaza. I don't know. That's not for me to know anyway.
Mm.
But to cut that short, and this is a person who I doubt has had a full night's sleep in 180 days.
No, definitely not. So, when people say, no, there are plenty of soldiers in Israel, we don't have to draft Haredim, ultra-Orthodox Jews. And I come back to that line in the Torah where the people of Israel are going to cross over, and 2.5 tribes are like, hey, listen, this is like, the Blue Ridge Mountains. This is beautiful here. We don't want, like, and Moshe says, are you going to actually, I'm paraphrasing, of course, are you going to actually hang out here while your brothers go off to war?
And at first they were
And
like,
that's,
"Oh, I hadn't thought about that."
yeah, it's like, oh, wait a second. All right, let me think about that for a minute.
And
Yeah, it's crazy.
the other thing is as you mentioned last week, that Israel has spent about 60% of their yearly budget already this year.
Ready. Yeah.
And people don't understand that, I was in the army. I was given everything. Well, actually, when I was up in outside of Fairbanks, Alaska, running air traffic control for the choppers up there at a hot refuel place, they gave me the radio and forgot to give me the batteries. Okay, so that might have been a problem, but it was not a life and death thing. All right.
No.
It was just an oversight. In Israel right now, the IDF soldiers are having to raise their own money, and people are having to raise money to purchase equipment for them because Israel does not have the money for it. Because they've been giving money to Haredi, is one example of this. But how do I know this? Because I just bought a bunch of helmets yesterday.
Yeah.
I looked at Kathy and I said, as I told you, I said, there's a lot of things that I'd rather be doing with these funds right now leading up to Passover. I know of families that don't have the money for Passover meals and all that goes along with that. Okay. And I had to make a decision yesterday whether to help purchase meals
Or
for
the helmet.
people in need or buy helmets for IDF soldiers in Gaza. I should never
Yeah.
have been asked that question.
And again, I come back to there needs to be a larger pool of people that are willing to step up and do something to help.
Well, and that's
You know,
why I put the post this morning, silence and inactivity are the same thing. So,
it's people say, you say this with a smile on your face, Hanoch. I thought you'd be like more upset. No, because instead of having to go and explain to people why they should be doing things, by the time I get to see them, even though the trip to America is barely more than 2 months away, they'll have already either put themselves in or taken themselves out.
yeah. And for those that have taken themselves out, I have nothing to say.
No,
I choose to only speak to those who have put themselves in. So,
man,
all right, very good. Well, thank you, as always, for your update, for a
pleasure.
short video from, reminding everybody of this fact that 120,000 Arabs can go up on the Temple Mount, but not one Jew is allowed there.
Well, I mean, and now, of course, the next thing that I'm working on is to get 120,000 people Jews and those who love us that want to go up to the Temple Mount.
There you go. Hey, I'll be right in front of that tour.
Amen.
All right. Very good. Talk to you soon.
Take care, Mike. Have a great one.